evening, divine ones. Yours truly, ML Elias is here. Tonight, I'm flying solo, solo, solo. And as you can tell, I am not on camera tonight because I just felt like letting my hair down. Ha ha ha. And just kicking back and having a nice, intimate evening with you guys tonight. Tina is off on a cruise in Cancun for the remainder of this week. And so tonight I wanted to really go into some amazing truths that I shared over on my Telegram channel last night. Um, this is what I was wanting to create this Great Minds by Design platform about, was to really explore and discuss these deeper truths with you. Okay. And that's where I'm going tonight. First part of the show, I'm going to discuss, God, source, infinite creator, and how God, source in creation and how we are connected with that. Okay. And in the second part, I'm going to really blow your mind when it comes to the great solar eclipse, the complete solar eclipse coming April 8th. I know there's a lot of fear mongering. I know there's a lot of channels and a lot of platforms out there that are trying to spread disinformation. And you know that saying, divine ones, garbage in, garbage out. Well, I'm providing you guys with absolute light because we truly are in charge of manifesting our reality. We really are. But before we get started, I want to give props and a quick shout out to Doc, who is producing our show here at the Great Hamilton Radio Networks. Make sure and visit their social media channels and give them a thumbs up, give them a pat on the back, and thank them for sponsoring and helping us provide our show on their platform. Also want to say thank you to our great moderators for being with us for this long. We're going in some very great directions with Great Minds by Design. And I can't wait to tell you guys in the coming weeks some of the amazing initiatives that are going to be sprung forth out of Great Minds by Design. We're going to provide each and every one of you a little bit of something that will hopefully help you guys out in the days, the weeks, the months, years that are coming ahead. All right. I want to give a shout out to Betty Shoup. Thank you, Betty, for being here. Wally B, thank you. Daniel, Rita, thank you, brother, for being here as well. And I want to say thank you to all my other listeners who've been with me for the last 3.5 years. I appreciate you and I love you. Thank you. All right. So let's talk a little bit about God source, right? And us and the God spark. So what I'm going to be doing, this is the first part of a multi-series in relation to God spark and how that parlays into us in this great school that we're here on earth participating in. We'll call it Earth School, right? The Great Ascension Boot Camp. So you guys know that when we look at planets and we look at these stars, from our vantage point, they're a long, long, far distance away from us, right? And if we had to purchase a plane ticket to fly from, let's say, Germany to Sao Paulo, Brazil, it would take us quite a few hours to travel that distance. That's what is known as linear time construct. That is what we as humans have our limited understanding of what time is, travel is, space, all these different quantum theoreticals, if you will. And in this game that we're playing here on this Earth School, this Great Ascension boot camp that we're all living in and we're playing in, it's this great, magnificent human game, right? There is this distance. There is a thing called time, which is what is utilized, as we know, traveling when it comes to the cosmos, when it comes to God, God's source, and so forth, they utilize time. That is how they are able to create. And when we jump outside of our bodies, none of that exists. Because in all reality, we can be everywhere at the same time. We can be like in multiple dimensions and spaces all at the same time. Did you guys know that you can actually split the fabric of your own consciousness? You can actually go into multidimensional spaces. You could be in a dimension like over here. You could be in a dimension over there or over a planet here or there. And then you can be fully aware of everything that's taking place in real time. And then if you decided to bring all of your different fractals back together, right? Because you can, because everything in reality is not separate. It's in the same space known as time. You see, this Earth School that we're all in, or on, if that's how you want to look upon it, it's a holographic construct. And I'm going to break down for you how God creates, how God forms. So let's say if you had the capabilities and you were able to go back to the start of everything, and I mean back to the very, very point of the first expansion of God's source, the infinite creator intelligence. And at that period of what we know as time, God became curious, right? And wanted to go out and start to create, because that's what God does. God creates. Because even in the beginning of the Bible, it says, in the beginning, God created this, and that, right? In the beginning, God created light. You see, God's source, the infinite creator intelligence, isn't a man, guys, isn't a woman. It's not a female or male. God is pure frequency. God is pure light. God is pure love and intelligence. The all-seeing I am omnipotent is pure energy. So in the beginning, God's source intelligence reached into itself and created other elements of itself. God's source intelligence created other strands of itself, other frequencies of itself, other blueprints of itself, other encoded pieces of energy of itself, other fractals of energy of itself, because that's how God's source created these celestial offsprings who were given instructions to go out and create. And that's what they did. For thousands and millions and billions of years, these creator beings, these creator gods, otherwise, referred to or called the Elohim, they went out into the cosmos. They created planets, they created galaxies, They created universes. They even created multiverses upon multiverses. They created wonders, which doesn't really mean that they were traveling, does it? Because again, there's nowhere to go, right? They were just accessing different frequency bands where certain things already existed. But it seems, like they would be traveling. That's what our human brains believe, right? They've got to be traveling to be able to do all this creation and go from here to there and everywhere. But truthfully, they were bending space at their will to revolve around themselves and to create some kind of frequency field that they can just step into their own reality. But for simplistic purposes, we'll just call it traveling. All right? There are universes and galaxies that are completely dark. And I mean, there's no consciousness there. There's no light. There's no love. There's no true prime creator essence. There's no God spark. Can you imagine that? There's no God spark. There must needs be opposition in all things. Here on earth, we're taught that for somebody that's wide awake like you guys are, people in this audience, I would dare say at a conscious collective level, are wide awake. And you understand and you understand that those from the mystery schools, those that are of the dark side, they have a really great understanding of this truthfulness, these principles, and they've tried to keep it from us. You see, the majority here on planet Earth, we all have a God spark. That connection back to God's source is in our hearts. And it's in the stargate of our hearts. Did you guys know that you're able to access and activate stargates that's within your hearts? You can. It's actually the biggest kept secret of humanity, that we can dive into our hearts. We can travel through the diamond spark, which is actually this multi-dimensional Merkaba field, which is known as this 12-pointed star, or a stellated dodecatron. I'm sorry, I mispronounced that. It's a dodecatatron, okay, which is a 12-point star. And each one of those 12 points on this star, this Merkaba field star, they're linked into each one of our DNA strands. How many strands of DNA does science claim that we have as humans? Well, they say we have 2, and they say that we have 10 that's junk DNA. But for another show, we actually have 13. You didn't know that, did you? But we do. I'll save that for another show. But anyways, each one of these points links into a transmission center, or what some people would actually call a multidimensional chakra center. And each one of these points links into a stargate. So the 12 points on the 12-pointed star, they're linking to the 12 elements of our DNA, which is the stargate system. These are different elements of reality. These 12 stargates, when they're fully operational and the mathematics are correct, you can actually create this whole which encompasses all 12 stargates. And in this kind of time construct, if you will, this human ascension school construct, you will see these stargates in different locations around this planet. But actually, they're all in the same space at the same time. If you go back to God, Source Prime Creator, again, it's not masculine or feminine, but if I had to say that God, Source Prime Creator, was more like one over the other, masculine over feminine, I'd have to say it'd be feminine. Because feminine, the feminine energy, is the creator force of the cosmos. The womb in the woman, right? The cosmic womb in the man is known as the creative energy. The feminine is the magic, while the masculine, the male, is electrical. So the electrical can go out and create, but it can't do it without the creative juices of the feminine. So when you get the electrical and this magnetic pulsing together, working together symbiotically in this divine union, then you've cracked the code, or I should say one piece of code of the creation, the secret of creation. Now let's talk about how the Trinity comes into play here, because we're all familiar with the concept of the Trinity, right? The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, or Holy Ghost, depending on which religious organization you prescribe to. But we're all very well familiar with that, right? The Trinity. For some who've been with me for the last 3.5 years, I taught you guys back last fall that the Holy Spirit is feminine, not masculine, it's feminine. I broke down in great detail a great argument that supports that. So the Father is God, which is what we've always been taught, which isn't really a father, but we call it the Father in this human construct because that's what our brains have to believe in a certain way, because we have this parental familial construct that we're familiar with, right? You have a father in the home, a mother in the home, but wait a second, who's the third element in the home? The spirit in the home, right? The father and the mother and the children in the home collectively foster the spirit of the home, right? So you have the sons aren't really sons, right? The sons are actually these creator beings, these other creator beings. And the reason we came to Earth School, to this great Ascension boot camp, is to remember. It's to remember how to be creator beings. How to be creator beings, creator gods, so that we can go out and build new super universes ourselves. So if we were to like rewind our consciousness just a little bit and go back to when God, source intelligence, pulled its own fractals, right? Or pulled pieces of its own essence out and created fractalized geometry or these fractalized codes, which went out. I'm talking about fractalized codes are these creator beings. So God, this is where having a deep understanding of this concept, it's called the law of eternal progression. And I know you're not going to hear many truthers ever talk about that because, to be honest with you, most of them cannot understand and grasp that concept. That's why I'm teaching you this concept, so you can go back and teach them what real truth is. So these creator beings, which are fractalizations of God's source intelligence, went out and created other universes. They created all these other galaxies and other planets and so forth. And this went on and on and on. And all of these creative beings were given blueprints, because you can't create something as complex, right, as creation without blueprints. You got to have blueprints to build a house. You have to have blueprints known as recipes to make a food of sorts, a meal of sorts. You know, those that have extensive training in medicine, there's certain blueprints that they have to follow in order to do procedures on us. So there's always types of blueprints that we have to abide by in order to be able to create, because that's what makes us creative. So all these creative beings were given these amazing blueprints by, God's source. Okay? And the whole universal construct was then created off of these very specific mathematically encoded blueprints. But all of these creator beings had what? They had free will. And when you give something free will, you have to honor that. You see, when God, source, the infinite intelligence, gave these creator beings free will, some of these creator beings, they started changing the blueprint, because that's what we do. We exercise our free will. We want to see if we can do it a little bit better, so we start modifying. These creator beings, they built things that became disconnected from the prime creator's energies, life force, the God spark. And from that original God source intelligence, known also as the diamond flame, the God spark, the love, the essence of God is love. They forgot. They didn't use those. So you can imagine that if you were a creator being and you're creating with a different blueprint, and you started creating planets and galaxies, and at first, right, you don't notice too many differences because you're only veering off just a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. But then once you start creating universes and then multiverses, because those are much larger creations, this is when you start to notice there's a crack in the code. But again, all these creator beings have free will. And all you can offer is guidance, like we do with our own children, right? They choose to do what they want to do, and in the end, they have to find out on their own way. Some do, and some don't. So a lot of these created beings, they found their way back to God's source. But some of them didn't. And this is where we get into these deeper truths about the Luciferian rebellion wars that took place, the satanic soul groups that took place. Those will be shows farther down the road. But you get the idea. So these created beings that didn't find their way back to God's source, they became very detached, right? They totally detached from actually God's source's intelligence, and they created constructs that had no God spark within those constructs. Those creations had none, null and void. There are still many of them actually scattered throughout this multi-dimensional playing field, and they're dark. They're as dark as they can possibly be. And this Earth school is actually one of the very few Christed planets, just so you guys know. There are actually 12 Christed planets, all with the God spark. But some of them are actually now dwindling. You see, the God spark in some of these planets are in some of these, what we would call fallen universes that are in the dark now. And this goes back to having an understanding about the true histories of creationary periods. We think that it's bad here, right? But it's pretty crazy that in some other places too, but the game here, the score here, the variation here, even the contrast here, the dualistic nature here makes Earth one of the best training camps in the whole entire universe. And remember, we're in a universe which is part of a multiverse. We're the only beings that have got free will, absolute free will. We're the only planet that is completely connected to the Christed God spark energy. And that's why it's the biggest kept secret from humanity. How many other truther channels are out there telling you guys this, revealing this to you guys? I'm hearing crickets. Not very many. That's why. Not very many. That's why. So, this is the biggest kept secret from humanity, right? And it's why our attention is taken externally from us all the time, because when our attention is taken externally, well, we don't go within ourselves. So we forget that this is home. We forget that this is where the true magic happens, right? We were gifted with something very incredible. But most of us don't even know it because we're always looking externally for help, right? Over here, over there, or we're trying to create this in the future, but very, very rarely are we ever in the present moment. We're always looking for somebody to come save us. When I've been saying for a few years now, we are the plan. We have always been the plan. You see, the present moment is the best gift that you can actually give yourselves. We came here to Earth for many reasons. We came here to learn. We came here to grow. We came here to remember and actually to find our way back home. We came here to help rehabilitate this Earth and help Earth on her own ascension, because this Earth, this planet, goes through an ascension process. It's a natural event that happens with all planets. What makes this particular ascension harvest different than all others is those of us that are creations that are assigned to this planet have the opportunity to move forward in that ascension process with her. But we also came here to train divine ones. And FYI, I just want you guys to know, they don't let just anyone onto this planet Earth. You have to be, like a Jedi Knight to get down here. And I said this last night. You have to be of that type of mindset. So you guys need to give yourself a great pat on the back, because you know what? You're these amazing supersonic, multidimensional galactic warriors. You made it. You were able to come here after billions and billions of years. Your souls are very old, very old. Your souls have traversed and experienced other schools to get to where we're at right now in the final stages, wrapping up this scene. And if you weren't these amazing warriors of light, you would not have been let in here. That's all there is to it. They would have never opened up these gates and said, here you go. Remember, when you come down to this planet, your memory gets blank slated, right? You have no recall. We have no recall whatsoever. And we have to start fresh in a very tough environment, which is stacked against us. But it's stacked against us for a really good reason, because it's stacked against us to toughen us up. It's stacked against us to help us grow. It's stacked against us to help us remember our innate abilities in a chaotic environment that's full of trickery, that's full of manipulation, where there are many low frequency beings that are actually feeding off of our energy if we let them. We're in this great construct that teaches us to hand our power over so you never find your God spark. And we knew this when we came here. We still said, sign me up. I want to do it, right? We wouldn't be here if we didn't. Every single one of us, all 8 billion plus of us that are here on this planet right now, said, sign me up. I'm in. When the creator beings said, who wants to go? You said, me. I'll do it. Well, I did the same thing with you guys. We're down here on this planet. And I know sometimes we probably think to ourselves, what the hell did I just sign up for? Right? I'm sure that's gone through our minds dozens and dozens of times. But when we make it through, we find our way back home. And we remember how to recode our own mathematics, our own internal mathematics, how to switch on that 13 code, which I'm going to break down as the God Spark, because I'm going to do a couple shows that will help you activate the God Spark. And then you'll be able to move through these Stargate systems up into the God worlds, and you'll be able to get a good glimpse of this whole construct from outside. You see, when we lift our sisters and our brothers up, and we all go on this journey back home, which is going to happen. It's going to happen. Once we all switch into this vibrational space, and we're there, some of us are there, there's going to be this huge celebration. There's going to be this massive, massive party. It'll probably be the biggest party in the universe. If you can possibly imagine billions of souls that are all together outside of this construct, right? So you have to ask yourself some questions. Are you ready to dive into this God spark? Because it's going to take work. It's going to take effort. Are you ready to play in this multidimensional playing field to understand the true nature of reality? To find your way back to love your sisters, to love your brothers fiercely and ferociously through all this chaos and all this crazy mayhem? Are we going to be able to find our way back to love, even though we're being exposed to all this torture, the rapes, the suicides, the hatred, all this evil and fear of this world? Here's another question. Can you open your hearts to forgive yourselves? Can you open your hearts to forgive yourself? To forgive everyone else and love in the face of the most incredible adversity, knowing that it's there as part of this game to help us grow. Remember, this is why we're here on planet Earth. I'm telling you, listen to my voice. You've got the capability. You've got the determination. You've got the stamina, and you have the courage to choose love over fear every single time. And by doing that, you shred this third dimensional, fourth dimensional matrix bullshit, and you switch gears and you move up the high vibrational ladder through those vibrational corridors. You have the option of switching out of your body. You can switch back and forth into your body. You can choose to be in other bodies if you want. I wouldn't recommend it. But using old ancient halls of Amenti architecture, which is mathematics, you have the ability, because it's all about frequency, right? Your frequency. It gives you access. And the only thing stopping you raising your energy levels is being in these low frequency emotions like guilt and anger and fear and separation and jealousy. There's this term called separation consciousness. It's actually one of the biggest tools that is used against us by the dark ones. And at the same time, it's one of the biggest tools that toughens us up. Because when we move from separation consciousness into unity consciousness, now you're 90% of the way there. Love and acceptance, well, that fills up the other 10%. Or maybe love and acceptance is like 90%, right? And the unity consciousness is 10%. All I'm trying to do is like give you some simplistic measurements on something that you can't really measure because there's no measurement. But it does help you to understand and how to explain things sometimes in this human world. You see, one of the biggest things we have to dismantle is that we worship these different books and gods, right? These hierarchical systems, these different deities and these entities, handing our power over to something else that isn't even us. Nothing is more intelligent than you or me. You and your reality, me and my reality. As a family, we are equal. But you are the master alchemist. You are the sacred architect. You are a quantum engineer. And you are a sovereign soldier. You are the alchemy that's walking inside of a human body, and you can actually change reality at your will with your own electrical and your own magnetic components, which is your thoughts and your emotions. Remember, I said you're a Jedi. You're more than that. You're actually upskilling and upgrading to this new level of Jedi consciousness. You're a divine Jedi. You're remembering how to be a creator being that can go out and build a new super universe, just like those original creator beings that were fractionalized out of God's source intelligence. You're part of that. So am I. We're all one. There's no separation, divine one. It's all illusory. We all came from the same place, from the same source. And we're all experiencing each other's reflections in this crazy Ascension boot camp. We're remembering that we are these magnificent Stargate guardians, these galactic avatars in these human bodies who came here to blaze a new trail. I really hope that those words help, because they're not just words, they are frequencies. I'm going to share an image here on the screen. This was sent to me by a close friend earlier today. Love is the currency of the new earth. That is what we are creating, right? That's what we're building, is the new earth. All right. So I know I'm kind of running short on time, but I want to get into this great solar eclipse because it's connected to the blood of the Lamb. All right. So you guys know that America has suffered greatly, but so has the whole world because of the evil effects of what is known as the first ever Pluto return. And that is a whole nother conversation also for another time to understand the astrological effects as it relates to the events that are taking place and shaping up on this planet. Their significance. But on April 8th, 2024, through the new moon, total solar eclipse, what that means is there will be no light showing. It is a total solar eclipse, complete darkness. This is going to take place, what is known as the 19th degree of Aries in the zodiac construct. We will triumphantly enter what is known as this long-awaited first-time light. What's really going to happen is we're going to break this darkness over America's Plutonian dark night of the soul. That's the significance. We are coming out. This is part of the light, right? This is part of the golden age, the age of Aquarius. And since time immemorial, Aries is this astrological sign that has been represented by a ram, right? The astrological sign of Aries is a ram. So what if we were to flip that script and look upon that sign and we actually see one of a lamb instead of a ram? The lamb, which is its innocent infant version of the ram. That simple act of consciousness alone, divine ones, could redefine what we are about to manifest as we work towards our own personal journeys of the coming great ascension harvest. Indeed. And as a Melchizedekian, as I said last night on my show, I'm saying it tonight on this show, I am permitted to reveal new truths to you. What I'm about to share with you will help each of you divine souls to understand that these celestial advents that are now parlaying into the great ascension harvest, it is connected. It is connected. From a cosmic understanding that the 19th degree of Aries esoterically governs what is known as the blood of the Lamb in a very profound astro-spiritual sense. And since this eclipse is, since it is a definite time of divine intervention, we, the KRYSTOS Guardian Alliance, and the Master Beings of Light predict great international themes of healing, of rebirth, of renewal and transformation through the direct influence of the Good Shepherd, the Ascended Master Christ Sandanda, otherwise known or called Yeshua or Jesus. Could this be the return? Because this eclipse will align perfectly to what is known as a Chiron, which is one of the eternal infinite creator's celestial healing forces, okay? It will create a powerful new healing effect all over this planet that will save life from death while avenging many great ongoing evils. Justice is coming. Righteous judgment, righteous justice is coming. There are 11 points to understand about the significance of this complete solar eclipse. Point number 1. As for the war on Earth, Aries is the zodiac's house of war, right? One might think that an eclipse in this house heralds a new war, right? That's all we're hearing, is that new wars are going to emerge. Things are going to happen here during the eclipse. That's all that we're hearing. To those who intuit this way, we say, you are right. This eclipse is a holy sign, guys, that the heavens' war against satanic forces on earth will soon be escalating dramatically and in favor of humanity, with the Archangel Michael Gestalt to have a shining role in the victories, defenses, and the healing processes to come. You see, the divine war against evil will escalate through the opening of cosmic seals at the 19th degree of Aries in governing firmaments across the globe. Notice I said firmaments, plural, not singular. Why? Because there are multiple firmaments over our plane of existence. You just heard what I said. We have multiple firmaments over our plane of existence. Why do you think they can't blast through them? As these seals are opened, we will see a tide of turning events manifesting against these demonic militaries, subversive political and cultural aggressors, and those who have conspired to damage the world through medical and economic means. You see, this is an eclipse of reckoning and revenge, according to the measurements and judgments of God. Holy fires will soon be burning in places of greatest need. Point number 2, healing for humanity. Paradoxically, this eclipse will also usher in a precious new wave of healing and reconstruction into our lives, as it will rarely occur in perfect conjunction to the Chiron, which is the chief healing deity of the celestial government of the cosmos. You see, a great amplification of Chiron's healing influence will be cast into this world, including and especially in urgent situations that are time sensitive, in life-saving ways. We will each be presented with new paths and means of definite God blessing healings to be accepted. When this eclipse comes, divine ones, simply walk through the doors that are being opened to you. No one is going to be spared. All are invited into the new healing light of God. But also know that this is a fateful time to change and transform out of your negative ways with your health, your bad habits that impact health for the sake of healing and renewal. Point number 3, reconstruction of Earth and humanity. You see, this eclipse will also usher in a 2-year cycle of economic reconstruction. You heard what I just said. This eclipse will usher in a 2-year cycle of economic reconstruction on the macro and micro levels. This influence can be seen through the semi-sextile that the eclipse will make Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, these two planets, most chiefly connected to beneficial economic developments on Earth and for humanity. In our personal lives, we will be presented with new pathways of economic reconstruction that, if accepted, we will lead, and it will lead to new economic stability, power, and potential, guys. Unforeseen changes, transformations, and revelations will often drive new economic healing processes ahead. And although there will be a certain financial earthquake this year, I guarantee it, I encourage you, divine ones, to take heart that despite certain hardships ahead, a greater cycle of economic ascension is opening right now. Be ready to receive. Be patient with this process because seeds can't be rushed to bloom. But read the signs on the wall and go into the new ways of the gold that God confirms through the new earth sacred economy of the 5D abundance and wealth consciousness. Point number 4, we must discuss the military role in this shift, right? As Aries governs the military dimension of life, we can expect dramatic, beneficial, and miraculous changes in this realm over the next 2 years. A process of Aryan alchemy that will prepare us for the world-transforming transits of Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which will commence jointly in February of 2026. More specifically, this eclipse will affect a process of transformation that converts military missions and operations from killing and chaos into ones of defense and healing. We will see God's hand working through active forms of military crisis in the months ahead. And since our nation's conception, our militaries have been exploited, they've been abused and used for evil. But this eclipse marks a time of pivotal change for better. You see, secrets that have been contained or suppressed in the military sphere are soon to burst out into the global commons. There are secret heroes that we will learn about and secret missions that will be brought into the light. Songs will be sung for heroes unknown. Point number 5. There will be a great shift in divine powers. The blood of the Lamb, degrees of Aries, resonates with new powers and new transformations that occur through their bestowal or acquisition. People who serve God and the collective good of humanity will be receiving new powers over the next 2 years in such ways that amplify the success of their work, their actual ability to heal, and their spiritual missions here on earth. Courage and leadership, 2 classical virtues of Aries, must be developed and expressed at higher levels as the new powers come and as planetary transits advance. A stripping of power will also be experienced by the dark demon class on earth, who have actually abused power in cruel, subversive, and evil ways. Inner powers that have laid dormant in us will be activated by the eclipse's magic, while necessary healings for full power manifestation occur. Divine experiences with new healers will abound as a new environment of medical discovery, success, and innovation take life. 6th point, a future foretold with the cities of Nineveh. It is true that this eclipse is going to follow the trajectory over 8 cities that are named and incorporated as Nineveh, as found in the USA and Canada. When it comes, we believe that God's source is calling global attention to the historical city of Nineveh as an ancient Assyrian capital city that scholars have accurately described as a mighty kingdom of war, of terrorism, of cruelty, and of bloody victories and sudden defeat. We believe that this eclipse signals the doom of the modern day Nineveh, but we must not discount the symbolism behind this. These are the names of the states where Nineveh is located in the United States. You have Indiana, Missouri, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Virginia. There's also one in Nova Scotia. You see, in ancient times, God overthrew this demonically warlike kingdom of darkness. And we think that this is going to happen again. The great story of Nineveh teaches us that God, the infinite creator of all, has full power over evil, and that God's source pronounces and executes divine justice and revenge in wisdom of time and way. We, the KRYSTOS Guardian Alliance and the Master Beings of Light, believe that Aries eclipse marks such a time, and we welcome it. Point number 7, the destruction of humanity's enemies. We further predict that this eclipse will have devastating effects on the satanic leadership of this planet, with emphasis on the upper echelon hierarchies and organizations and personnel. We see the heads of serpents being slashed off their bodies with the Aries eclipse being symbolized by a sword that is held by this extremely powerful heavenly figure. We're going to see great turmoil within the ranks of the dark side, to the extent that profound forms of surrender, confession, and cooperation begin to happen in dramatic ways. That this heavenly event will turn the tides of global war and quests for control. There are leaders and controllers on the dark side that we are not fully aware of, but this eclipse will bring out the secret leaders. It'll bring out their networks and their hierarchies of the satanic groups to light, a process which will proceed in crushing defeats on their hideous side. We'll be able to see the spiritual warfare with great new clarity and awe through the alchemy of this eclipse. Now we see a board and they are checkmated. Point number 8, a rebirth to usher in the great Ascension harvest. Rebirth of the self for the good and divine is a major eclipse theme to be aware of. You see, this eclipse will usher in a great new energy and momentum that actually should be used to advance this next level of personal changes and transformations. The advances in healing, empowerment, enrichment, spirituality, and positive global impact, we sense that we should all be focused on rising above things that have confined us or restricted us, especially on our personal, spiritual, and psychological levels, so that we conquer our own shadows and transform into our higher selves like a phoenix rising from the ashes of old. This is a time to reclaim and project personal power on individual and concentrated collective levels to advance divine global change. Warriors, leaders, and trailblazer transformations are part of this. Divine callings of leadership are coming. So be strong, be confident, be faithful if and when yours comes. Also, be ready to recognize and receive your new battle buddies. You heard me. Be able to readily receive and recognize your new battle buddies. Point number 9, the new soul healing gifts. The eclipse will unlock profound new depths of knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and paranormal senses with respect to your souls. We are entering this extremely unique astrological cycle where the tapping of new soul power and reinvigorated willpower will be like these master keys to new successes in life. Concentrate on your soul's healing, your soul's growth, your soul's power of expression in times ahead, because this is where the God light will be cast. Find your inner God-given power and use it. Use it in ways that you can never have before, as this will hasten the arrival of heaven on earth, which we can all have a hand in if we so choose. New enlightenment on our individual soul missions and histories will also come forward in ways that will be emotionally intense and transformational purposes. New soulmate connections from past lives will soon become mysteriously abundant. Recognize what is sacred, divine ones, and proceed accordingly. The 10th point, severance from those who are service to self and 3D minded. Just as surely as Aries governs swords and weaponry, this eclipse cycle will manifest the theme of spiritually vital severance in our lives. We've repeatedly seen the imagery of swords slashing at things that harm and contain us from the higher things, right? And the divine order that God wills. Therefore, we predict a powerful theme of severance and a sudden disconnection from things in our lives that must go or end at this time, for the will of God to be done and for our highest interest to be served. We especially sense this in employment, in relationships, and in like locational levels. If a major severance occurs in our life with or shortly after the eclipse, spend time contemplating the spiritual reason why. We also sense an eclipse theme of allies. This is being hidden on the enemy's side, who will emerge with special forms of aid to enable impossible successes. Remember, infiltration works both ways after all. Honor to the clandestine heroes behind the enemy lines. The 11th and final point. We are now entering a warrior mode. If there was ever a time to be in warrior mode, it's now. God will be granting warrior enhancements throughout this eclipse so that we can each be more effective warriors of light, of truth, of justice, and of universally beneficial outcomes. New battles for power and control will be breaking out at all tiers of society. Warriors of light will be favored. This is a time to be fearless in action, divine ones. In deed and in purpose, as divine protections will be granted to heroes, to heroines, and those who step up in service of righteous causes. This includes defectors from the enemy's side who turn to the light. You see, more than ever before, we must be what is missing in this world. There is a great reward in doing so. So be ready to charge hard when God gives you an opening. This is a time of historic breakthroughs and victories, so take your place in them. Purge the 7 deadly sins to climb higher on your warrior path. The new earth is born on April 8th, 2024, and I will leave you with this parting thought. Let your eyes to the heavens be turning, darkened sun and falling stars. See the crimson's heavens burning, earth prepared for final wars. Hear the scoffer ask with jeering, where's the sign that he is nigh? Turn your eyes with joy and fearing to the omens in the sky. Thank you, divine ones. I appreciate you guys being here tonight. I'm sorry I went over my time allotment here, but I appreciate you guys staying with me as always. I really hope that you take these words to heart. We have amazing days ahead of us. Do not forget that you are divine in every way. Have a most glorious, blessed-filled rest of your evenings. Have a most glorious and blessed-filled rest of your week because you deserve it. Keep your powder dry.